Hey y'all, it's Miss Clay and I'm here with my teaching assistant Brody. He's been working on a couple of paintings that we're going to use a little later on in the lesson. He's very excited to be here today, aren't you? Yes. I hope y'all are all out enjoying the wonderful sunshine and getting a chance to take in this beautiful weather. We're going to start out this lesson today by talking about a few terms that you might be familiar with or you might have heard in the art room but you're not necessarily sure what they mean. So the first one is the word medium, and it means anything that you use to create art. So it could be like pastels or just a regular pencil or paint or anything that you use to make your artwork is called a medium. Now, if you use two or more mediums, they are called media. So media is a plural form of the word medium. So if you have a mixed media work of art, it means that the artist used two or more different mediums. So for example, Brody here has been painting all morning and he created 3 little paw print designs out of paint, and so he used just paint. So this is an example of an artwork that was created using just one medium. Now, this is a drawing that I did, and the next 2 examples that I'm going to show are the same ones that are in your packet. So if you can't see it as well on the video, go ahead and look at your handout and you'll be able to see them a little bit more clearly. So this is a drawing of a horse and it was created using only pencil. So again, that's an example of just one medium. So these 2 pieces are not mixed media pieces. Now this one is a painting of a turtle. So you can see here that it's a turtle coming up out of the water to eat a leaf. And so I painted it with watercolor, and then I went back and did some line work and darkened some areas with the marker. So the watercolor is one medium, and then the ink is the second medium. So this work has 2 separate mediums in it, so it is considered a mixed media artwork. So for this project today, you're going to create your own mixed media art piece. So go to your backpack or wherever you keep your school supplies and get out a notebook paper. You can get out a notebook or just a single sheet, whichever one. And then pick out 3 different mediums that you're going to use for your piece. So the ones that I'm going to use today are a pencil, one medium, a Sharpie, which is going to be my second medium, and then a red ink pen. So these are the 3 different mediums that I'm going to use to create my mixed media piece. So before we get started on how we're going to do that, we're going to take a look back, and this has probably been several weeks now, so you might have to think extra hard, but the last time that we were in class, we did different drawings and designs with different line patterns called Zen Doodles. So be thinking about the lines that you used, because we're going to use those same lines to create this next art piece. So you could have some vertical lines or horizontal lines, some squiggly lines, and then you can put these lines together and cross hatch them. So lay vertical lines over horizontal lines, and you're going to make them intersect, and then that's what you can use to create your shadowing. So for example, this is a drawing of Muhammad Ali. So you can see here that I use different line patterns to create the shadowing and to build depth within the person. So for this project, you're going to create 3 separate layers using each of your different mediums. And so the idea or the subject matter for this piece is going to be your hometown. So I live in Taylorsville, Kentucky, which is about 30 minutes outside of Louisville. So for this example, I did things representative of Louisville. So Muhammad Ali is a famous boxer and his hometown is Louisville. So that was layer 1, I used Sharpie. And then for layer 2, I did a simple outline drawing of the skyline of Louisville, and I used highlighter for that. So that was my second medium. And then one of Ali's famous sayings was float like a And then one of Ollie's famous sayings was float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. So I did a drawing of a bee in pencil, and then I used some of the lines and stuff that we did from the last project, and I created little honeycomb patterns in the background. So be thinking about that and how we can use those different lines to create our 3-layered project. So I'll go ahead and do another example with you and walk you through kind of how we're going to add the different layers and give it a little bit more meaning. So whenever I think about my home, I think about a farm, which as you can see, I'm outside and I live on a cattle farm. So whatever subject you want to be the most visible in your piece, make that the darkest color choice. So as I said, I'm going to use Sharpie as one of my mediums. So I'm going to draw the cow that I want in the center in a black Sharpie so that way it stands out whenever I add the other layers on. Okay, so this is just a quick outline sketch I did of the cow. Obviously it's not finished. Like I said a minute ago with the shading and things like that, I'm going to go back in and add some cross hatching and so some lines really close together throughout here to create a shadow on the neck, and then I'm going to do the same thing around the eyes and the nose. But we'll go ahead and move on to the second layer real quick. So the next one I'm going to do is of a horse. Whenever I think of home, I have one of my horses that I've had since she was 10 days old, and I got to bottle feed her and everything like that. So I'm going to go ahead and draw her here in the corner, and I'm going to overlap her with the cow. So I'm going to now choose my second medium, and I'm going to use a red ink pen. And so I'm going to go ahead and start on that. Okay, so this is a quick outline sketch of a horse. Now, if you can see the simple lines and things like that going on throughout here, I'm going to go back with my pen and do what I talked about earlier with the cross hatching here to show you how you can create that shadow and stuff within the neck. So as I'm coloring in here with my pen, I'm doing the lines really close together because this is where I want to be dark. whenever I take a look at the entire drawing. So I'm going to continue doing that throughout the face and the body of the horse. And then areas where I want it to have just a little bit of color, but I don't necessarily want it to be super dark, I'm going to spread the lines further out. And then you'll see as well how I'm just overlapping the drawing of the cow. And then here in the nostril, I want it to be super dark, so I'm going to do the lines really close together where it's almost just like coloring it in. And then I'm going to spread these lines out up here because I want just a little bit of color, but not a whole lot. And then for the eye, I'm going to do the same thing that I did with the nostril. So I'll make a little highlight here and then fill the rest in. So you can see here with the horse how I've used the different line patterns to kind of create a little bit more depth. I could go ahead and go in a little bit more to make it some detailing, but we'll go ahead and move on to the third layer. So for the third layer, I have my dog Brody, and I'm going to draw him over here. So the last media that I'm going to use is a pencil. And so here's a simple outline drawing of the dog, and I would do again the same thing that I'm going to do with the cow and that I did with the horse. So I'm going to go back and add different line patterns to create the depth, and then his little patch here on his eye. And from the first day of class, I know Mr. Parsons had challenged y'all to just draw anything, and so a lot of you are very familiar with the process of shading. So if you're comfortable with shading, go ahead and do that as well. Create as much depth and form as you can within this piece, because that's really what's going to make the different layers stand out and look unique and original. Nope, sit. So I'm going to do the same thing that I did with the horse and color in a little bit, and then add different line patterns. And make sure that whenever you're doing your different line designs and things within the animals, that you're not just scribbling, but that you're being purposeful with your mark making, and that, sit down, that you're being purposeful within your mark making, and that you're putting the lines in an area that would make sense. So if it's going to be shadowing, you can use lines closer together to create that shadow. Okay, so be creative, and don't be afraid to experiment with the different media that you're using. I know this isn't typically what we think of whenever we see art materials or art mediums and things like that, but just use what you have and have fun and experiment. All right, have a good day. Say bye, Brody.